In this short series on experiments with farmers, I will now look at some of the details of the way in which experiments with farmers could be designed, using probably the simplest example of a variety trial for a crop that farmers are already familiar with. The typical researcher's variety trial looks something like this. It's likely to be laid out in a large uniform field. Rectangular plots of each variety are placed in a regular array with several replicates beside each other. The key features of the experimental design are here. The aim is to evaluate the biological performance, perhaps yield and level of pest damage. Treatments are 4 new varieties plus 1 local control. The plots or experimental units are 6 by 3 meter areas of land. There are 4 replicates of each treatment. Blocks are defined to allow for possible heterogeneity in the field. Treatments were randomly allocated to blocks with 1 rep of each treatment per block. The management was consistent across all the plots in the experiment, and for measurements we measured the crop yield and level of disease on each of the plots. Now the variety trial to be done by farmers in their fields is typically going to have to fit into a much more diverse landscape. Perhaps steep land, perhaps with small fields covered with different crops and owned by many different farmers. I will look at how each of the features of the researcher's trial might be modified when done with farmers. I say might as there are many options. That which I suggest here is just one possible option. First, the aim has the additional objective of assessing farmers' preferences for varieties. That is one key reason for doing the trial on farm. Farmers need to have experience of growing varieties to be able to express a valid opinion about them. The treatments will be the same new varieties, but these should be compared with the variety farmers already know, and that might be different on each farm. The plot size might need to vary across farms. A constant plot size is easier to organize, handle data from, etc., but it's not a requirement of the design, and it might be that some farmers want to use larger experimental plots than others. The replicates are now spread across farms, with 1 per farm. I will discuss this idea of replicates and farms in the next video. Note that the layout on each farm might not be a neat row of contiguous plots. Space and other constraints might make it necessary to spread them around. If farmers are allowed to choose the varieties to test, we may not have all on every farm and end up with an unequally replicated design. It would probably be wise to find out why farmers are choosing some and not others, particularly if there are some varieties that are very unpopular. Farms may be considered as blocks, as performance within a farm is likely to be more similar than performance on different farms, not least because of more uniform management within a farm. Again, I will explore this in the next video. Random allocation of varieties to plots is still a good idea. It might be hard or undesirable to have all plots managed the same way across all farms. Farmers will inevitably do things like planting and weeding when they're just necessary and when they're able to do it. We should aim for constant management within a farm, but differences between farms will be part of the block effect. Measurements will include the preference scores that will need a carefully designed protocol for eliciting them. In addition to measurements on each plot, we will probably want to characterize the field and the farmers so that we know what they represent. Those are maybe the key points of the design. but there are many further details that need thinking through and deciding. Choices will depend on the exact objectives, the context of the trial, and various practical constraints. And the trial I have outlined is only one of many possible styles of an experiment with farmers. The choice of style should again be driven by objectives balanced with local conditions and practical possibilities.